You don't need a perfect portfolio to get a job, and you don't need to be famous on social media. I got my very first job as a character artist over 10 years ago. Since then, I've been able to work on games like Evolve, Titanfall, Back 4 Blood, and Apex Legends. Breaking into the entertainment industry or just finding a job as an artist can seem impossible. The sheer level of talent and competition today is insane. All you have to do is go to ArtStation or Instagram and instantly be overwhelmed with amazing new art. But there's actually even more opportunity today for game artists than there ever has been. What you really need is a little bit of strategy, dedication, and patience, because if you continually work on improving your artwork and be open to possibilities, in the long run, good things will happen. So today I wanted to show you my very first portfolio and how that led to my very first job. How my portfolio has evolved over the years, and I'll share with you what I've learned to maximize your personal project to make the biggest impact you can, and some tips on how you can increase your chances of becoming a professional artist. So let's do it. Let's first take a look at my portfolio 1.0, which is this guy. There he is. This is actually what the word portfolio means. And in here is what's called paper. This is a collection of work that I did as I graduated art school. I went to college for game art and design, actually. And I took this portfolio to the Game Developers Conference, GDC, which happens every year. And I took that book around to the different studios. Back then, they would have people set up at the different studios, and these really cool people would review your work. And so people like me, aspiring artists, would stand in line and wait for feedback. And I think we were hoping to get a job, to be honest. I thought I would go there and just like get hired. But instead, I got some feedback from, I think it was Ubisoft, and that advice has stuck with me to this day. So I got to the table, I showed the artist my book, he opened it. I was probably the 400th person he saw that day, and he just started flipping like this. And I just saw him flipping past like characters that took me like 2 months to make. Just bam, bam, bam. And I was like, could you, And then he landed on this one. And he said, and then he asked me some questions about it and then said, do more like this. And that was the first thing that really shifted the way I thought about my artwork, my personal projects, and my portfolio. Because that work in there was the thing in my portfolio that took the least amount of time, and it was not a production asset. And I really added it to my portfolio to like have more things. And this was the thing that caught the attention of an industry professional. So that definitely changed what I thought about what I should be putting in my portfolio and how important that first impression really is. So that's it for the book. That was really the only time. I also made a website, which was super crucial. And nowadays you would do that on ArtStation or something like that. But we can take a look at my very first portfolio website. Here we go. To do that, I'm going to go to the Wayback Machine and I'll go check out jasonhillcg.com. There we go. 2009. And then there it is. Oh, I have some text. Oh, that's going to be cringe. Don't read that. Don't read that. And look at this logo. I just straight up stole David Blaine's logo. I'm not going to lie. And it looked like a heart. Imagine I was a little emo-y art student, cut me some slack. The wallpaper that looks like I'm in a saloon though. No excuse for that. No excuse for that one. And what's going on with this? I put the accent on the E. What am I doing here? And look at look how I'm breaking up this word. Trying too hard, are we? But anyways, I digress. So yeah, I actually made this website in HTML like this back then, and I thought I was super cool. Anyways, back to the art. So here you go. This is essentially that book, but in a website form. And this is what I sent around to some studios and didn't hear back from them. These links don't work, so let me pull up. I've got some of these on my computer actually, so we can take a look at these. So this Grifter is my very first full game character that I made. This is based on a comic book, made an impression on me, and I thought, hey, here's a character that is a little niche that people haven't seen, and it's like superhero-y, comic booky. Doesn't have a face. So I thought this was achievable. So this is my first ever game character, going a little too hard with the warm and the cool lighting effect, which is definitely an art school requirement. I think everybody goes through a phase. Lots of paint over on this guy. This is what he actually looks like in Unreal Engine, just kind of raw. You know, not gonna be too hard on myself. These are my first things. You know, I think it's okay. Hair looking like crinkle cut chips though, not gonna lie. The arm though, I'm gonna give myself a pass on the arm. I remember focusing a lot on the arm. Just wanted a super sexy dude arm right there. Got the veins and everything. First character in Unreal Engine, there you go. Here is my second ever character that I made, complete, with the high poly, low poly and all that. Here again, warm and cool lighting, check. This time with a face. You know, if this isn't recognizable, this is the character from the movie Appaloosa that Viggo Mortensen played, named Everett. Still kind of a cowboy head. So here's an actual like kind of raw screen grab. You can see down here in the lower right, Unreal Engine 3, we're in 5 now. We're doing 5. But again, not too hard on myself, you know. Hey, first character, it's a thing. They're posed. Pretty proud of myself for posing both of them. Definitely always recommend that to students coming up. Makes a huge difference. So much better than just like a T-pose. Makes them feel more like characters. Makes them feel more like they're doing something. There he is in Unreal again, spinning around. Here's a wireframe. Kind of crazy to see. This is like 12,000 triangles. Nowadays, it'd be like 120,000 triangles or more for a portfolio. Why not? And here's that character, Sarge. And again, pretty fast that I made this. This is a ZBrush sculpt. And then I did a render and then just painted all this in Photoshop. The eyes all painted in Photoshop, everything. There's no color. It looks more like this in ZBrush. Like heavily inspired by Kobe Jukes. Kobe Jukes, so dope. And his work at the time was like some of the best I'd ever seen. Still, I think is great. So this is kind of my crappy like attempt at doing something in a similar vein to the cool stuff he was doing. Even though it's not a game character. And I think that's an important thing to realize. So looking at my portfolio now, you can see like this guy right here is not production. Nima, not a production model, not a production model. These are, because these are my professional work. Here's another one that's not production. This one's not production. So I've really taken on board this idea of, I'm gonna have some examples that are of game characters, or here's some examples of some production quality work. But then in between is a lot more examples that are not that are really just more for like, hey, here's a cool character model. And that does really a lot. And that's the number one thing I want to convey right now for people that are building portfolios and trying to do more with what they have, is to put a little bit of strategy in your portfolio overall before you go deep into it. As an artist, you are a business of one, and your product is your artwork. Your portfolio is your online storefront. And your images and your thumbnails are like your marketing. I really believe that shifting your thinking about your portfolio and how it is your kind of online storefront, thinking about that user experience that whoever gets your portfolio has, really maximizes the impact of each of the posts that you do. Another bit of strategy that I encourage everyone to onboard is the result of that initial feedback that I got and how I build my portfolio today, which is I think of it as having pillars of projects that are what you want to be hired to do. In between those pillars, you can put smaller projects like bricks that take much less time and are much smaller in scope. You can do 3 or 4 of those in between each pillar. And that's how you can build a big portfolio, and you can really curate a message, a style, a level of quality, an aesthetic, while having those really big projects that are doing everything you need in terms of answering questions for people that might be thinking about hiring you. But you don't have to do that every time. Then you can just make cool stuff that's about making things that are interesting, growing your own skills, and having fun, because that's what we should be doing anyways. The next piece of strategy that I think is really important to have is to have variety within your portfolio. Now, I don't think it's beneficial to just have things all over the place. You know, like you don't know what you want to do, maybe like here's some style and here's some photo reel and here's a bench. I think you should narrow it down to what you really, really want to do, but show variety within that. You know, if you're doing characters for games that are in some kind of stylized thing or photo reel, then let's do different ages, different genres, different ethnicities. You know, maybe you have a big guy in some armor. Then maybe you want to do a woman military character, contemporary person like Nathan Drake. And then maybe we could do something that's sci-fi. And so we're building out this variety that's showing the different materials, that's showing the different aesthetics, that's again, proving it out so that we're answering those questions of somebody that arrives at the portfolio. Can this person do my fantasy game? Can they make a sci-fi character? We want to broaden our artistic ability, and we want to advertise that we can make a variety of characters and artwork, right? You can see how when I do something like here's a self-portrait, next I do a big ugly creature orc guy, and then next I do a stylized sci-fi girl. So if I complete a project, the next project I want to be different. It also keeps things interesting. Back to my old portfolio, this was the biggest project that I did while I was in school. This was like my graduating project, as it were. So I spent a long time doing this. This is based on the book Stop Staring by Jason Osipa. I actually read it first when I was in high school. Definitely one of the most technical books I've still ever read. I don't normally do that, but I'm just so obsessed with the making of characters and how it's done that I found that book super fascinating and was itching for an opportunity to try to put it into practice. That book shows you how you can model your own face and rig it and animate it. And that's what I did. So this is actually a self-portrait and before ZBrush. So this is all box modeled, from a box, just building it point by point. But I did a full rig and I recorded a performance of something from Fight Club and I animated it. And I really wish I still had that video today. There is no video. I haven't seen it in years. Maybe almost 10 years I haven't seen it. I lost it on some drive back in the day. So save your work, people, because when you get old, you might want to look back on it. So all I have is this one test render, and no animation, and then some screen grabs that I put in ZBrush later on. So that was Portfolio 1.0. And that portfolio was good enough to land me my first job. Initially, I found out about this job because people I went to college with that were also studying game art design were working at this small place down in Orange County, and they knew me, so they just kind of told me about it and recommended me. That portfolio was good enough for them to give me a shot. They hired me and one other character artist, and that was my first gig. It was a contract. The contract was to make digital characters using Maya and ZBrush for something that was going to be like a cinematic for a slot machine that never came out. But it doesn't matter. They paid me to make characters. It went well enough to do a second contract. So those two contracts were the extent of my first gig or gigs of being a character artist. After that, I put those character models back into my portfolio and added some other stuff. So we jump back over to the Wayback Machine here. I guess 2011. I probably got the job around 2010, I guess. Take a look. There you go. So in 2011, you can see some rows are starting to fill out. You can see this young male, which was based on Orlando Bloom, this older male, and then this guy who was Will Smith, kind of a Will Smith likeness that I tried to like video game up. This one was not for that gig. This was actually just something for fun. I started while I was in college again to practice. And then this young lady that was part of that first job, and then this other young lady. So I got 4 character heads and 1 full character in my portfolio from that job. And one of the cool things was the variety. That's something that now I try to be conscious of. But back then I was a little bit fortunate to just have a brief that was, let's make different people, different ages and different genders. All right, my next tip for you is to be open. I want you to cast the widest net possible in terms of opportunities and be open to unexpected opportunities that might come up. So again, I don't think you should just shotgun the kind of art that you do. Try to be as true to yourself, or at least follow your interest as genuinely as you can. But then from there, we can apply to so many jobs. That very first job that I got, that resulted from an interview that someone I went to school with helped me get, that was after 6 months of not getting work after graduating. I applied to Valve and Naughty Dog and Epic and id, and that's it. Infinity Ward, I just applied to the biggest studios I knew off the top of my head, and then I just waited around and nothing happened, and that was it. It wasn't until I got a really crucial piece of advice, which was, hey, why don't you apply to some places every day? And that made a huge difference in my thinking. Shifting the mindset from applying to a handful of specific places to I'm going to apply to job descriptions that interest me every day forces you to do things that you're not doing, like researching different companies, looking around at different resources that have job postings, digging a little bit to find the opportunities that aren't on the surface level, that aren't on the top of mind. And in a market that's like huge with competition, everyone's trying to work at Riot. Everyone's trying to work at Blizzard. But there's so many startups for like mobile stuff and now VR stuff or crypto stuff. It doesn't matter. If someone's willing to pay you to make the kind of art you want to make, that's the goal. And we can build from there, because some of these big studios require years of experience, which is impossible to get without getting some experience. If you're open to move, that's a plus, and that's also going to increase your chances. I know in today's day and age, we're all wanting to work from home. I want to work from home, and we're all able to do that a lot more than we could before, and that's great. But there are some studios and some opportunities that still require people to move. And if you're one of those people that are willing to do that, then it increases your chances. Quickly, I'm going to show you this website called gamedevmap.com. This is something that was big when I was trying to find work 10 years ago. It looks like it still works. I don't know how up to date it is, but just for instance, you know, these are all just geolocations, right? So if I just clicked Southern California here, it just gives me a big list. So you could just start opening up each one of these, going to their website, seeing if they have job postings. So if you're someone that's really trying to get a job, setting a goal of applying places every day is going to really help get you there and get you to start doing the things that you're not doing right now and the hustle that you need to find opportunities you didn't even know existed. So after that first gig, you can see my portfolio essentially doubled. Then at the bottom, you can see keeping the self-portrait alive, some 2D things, which I just wanted to have 3 full rows. Let's be honest. I wouldn't suggest people put 2D in there if you're trying to be a 3D artist. And then in the middle, you can actually see the model that was the subject of my very first YouTube video, which is still on the channel. Please don't watch that. So that was Portfolio 2.0. Now, if we take a look at my portfolio today, we can scroll all the way to the bottom. And what do we see? Hey, it's the Will Smith video game guy. So I kept one of the things from way back then just as like the first anchor to my portfolio. You can definitely see, I mean, I'm trying hard with this presentation. It's a studio lighting. It's something, you know, I'm trying here. Going super hard with the chromatic aberration. Definitely art student check right there. And then some 2D. So this bottom row is something I would probably recommend people cut. I just keep it here for like demonstration purposes. And, you know, I've been kind of talking about this stuff in the public for a while that I thought it'd be good to show the progression, you know, over time. But if someone was asking me to make like the purest, best portfolio possible, I would recommend removing this stuff because it's a little bit confusing. But I think I have enough examples where it doesn't really like deter. So yeah, so I'm actually getting like game art in here. So full production characters and then mixing in the busts. What I learned from that very first piece of feedback on my portfolio book, doing things that took less time that I found personally interesting and that I was just having fun and showcasing stuff and not worrying about the production requirements. So just trying to make something cool. I've been kind of continuing that this whole time. If we look here, after the production work, you can see this Dread, ZBrush, Keyshot, and then Photoshop Paint Over. Not production at all. Same with this, a bust. High poly, maybe Keyshot, I don't know, Photoshop stuff. So no UVs and textures, just all quick projects. And then this character, which was the biggest personal project I did at least since the 2 characters I built for my graduate portfolio. This character is the culmination of those things I learned and the different mindset that I had. Let's be real, I made this to do several things, one of which was to get the attention of Blizzard. You know, I wanted to get a job at Blizzard, at least throw my hat in the ring and say, hey, I could do some stuff. At the same time, I wanted to learn some of these techniques. I wanted to have fun, do something that I was interested in, play with things like fiber mesh, hair, and ZBrush, which was new at the time, and play around with stylization, which I hadn't done much of or at all up to that point. So this character right here is high poly, and the textures, everything except the tattoo, is procedural textures. So if we scroll down here, I have the character in a T-pose as if it's kind of a production model, but it's not. I didn't worry at all about topology. I didn't do UVs, like I say. Some of this color is just poly paint, and then it's just procedural stuff in Keyshot. Far from a production model. And when I put it out, this got me the most attention that any of my works had up until that point. Because this is like video game related, it did good things for my portfolio in terms of exposure and working well for me in conversation or whatever, just, you know, putting me more on the map as someone who makes characters for games, even though it's not a game character. That brings me to my last piece of advice, and that is to be patient. Play the long game. I really think this is the greatest equalizer. People learn at different rates, people have different skills, but if you can be consistent and really just be relentless that you're gonna make your artwork and you're gonna work to improve yourself forever, then I think, how could it not work out? In addition to that, never lose sight of having fun. I can't stress enough how important it is to just have fun and follow your curiosity and keep that sense of playfulness that you probably had when you began. That's the best way to ensure that you're going to be able to do this for the long term. And if you mix that with a little bit of strategy and showing variety and doing smaller projects, then you can build a bigger, better portfolio in a shorter amount of time and have fun doing it. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to hang out around here and learn some character art stuff, this playlist right here has some of my character art tutorials. And if you're someone that's working on making the best game character you can right now, or are just trying to make a killer portfolio post, I'm actually teaching a class in the near future on exactly that thing. So if you're really interested in that, you can go to characterclass.com right now and sign up to an email list, and I'll send you more info when that comes out. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Peace out.